I'm Dr. Eric Small. I'm a player physician here at the US Open. I'm a pediatric sports medicine specialist at Mount Sinai.
Thank you, Dr. Small, for joining us today live from the US Open. It is a beautiful day. So we want to talk a little bit about why young athletes retire during a match, and we've noticed that it has to do with muscle cramps. So can you tell us what affects muscle cramps, or what can cause muscle cramps?
Okay. Muscle cramps can manifest itself in many different ways. Sometimes the tennis player thinks they have a calf strain or a quad strain, so they can have a localized spasm or cramp, or they can have full body cramps, which would be upper and lower body as well as stomach. But what causes it? We're still studying that, but we think there are three key things that contribute to that. Poor hydration, inadequate calories or inadequate nutrition, and poor conditioning or inadequate conditioning.
So let's break down those three effects. Now, with hydration, how would a player know that they're dehydrated? What are the signs and symptoms?
Okay. Well, typically a sign of dehydration in someone who's 16 or above, they'll say they're thirsty. But athletes, tennis players under 16, we can't tell. And once they say they're thirsty, they're actually already 2 or 3% dehydrated. So one rule of thumb for preventing dehydration and ensuring adequate hydration is a half hour before a match, one should have 8 ounces of a sports drink or 8 ounces of water. That's to ensure adequate hydration. And typically, one should have every 15 to 30 minutes 8 ounces of water or a sports drink. So you don't want the tennis player to say they're thirsty. That means they're already on their way to dehydration. But some signs and symptoms would be, whether they go further along, cramping, or they feel headache or queasy.
So you mentioned nutrition. So what are some good healthy eating tips before a match and post-match?
Okay, that's an excellent point, because people think when you're cramping on the court, well, just give them fluids. Well, by that point, it's already too late. But it's really the calories and the electrolytes that are lacking in the muscles. So typically, a tennis player before a match, and every tennis player is different, they should have a small meal or a snack 30 minutes to 90 minutes prior to playing. And that should be 500 to 800 calories. So what should that pre-game meal consist of? It should consist of protein, carbohydrates, and low fat. So one should not have fried foods prior to a match. One should not have high caloric intake, because fats and high calories are hard to digest. So the athlete, the tennis player, should choose what they're comfortable having. So whether it be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or yogurt and fruit, they should have something that they're comfortable with, that's not new in their diet, that's palatable, and that they're going to have 500 to 800 calories. What about post-match? Well, post-match meal or nutrition should be consumed within an hour post-match. So why is that? That's to replace all the energy stores in the muscles. So if you have a 2 or 3 hour match and you wait 2-3 hours to have your meal, you're not ensuring the energy stores are back to where they're supposed to be. So that post-match meal can have high fat and should have high calories. It should be 1,000 to 1,500 calories. So that could be chicken and pasta or steak or fish, but it can be a high fat content there. But the take home message there, it should be consumed within an hour post exercise.
And lastly, can you tell us about conditioning?
Right. Tennis is one of the few sports that involves continuous aerobic conditioning. The average point is maybe only 3 to 5 seconds, so that's explosive training, anaerobic conditioning. And there's important to have enhanced flexibility, good flexibility, and good upper and lower body strength. So how would one design an optimal strength and conditioning program for the junior player? Well, they should be doing aerobic training, 30 minutes continuous, 3 days a week. So that would consist of running or biking or elliptical or swimming. So that's the aerobic component. It should also consist of anaerobic or sprint training. So that should be done 1 or 2 times per week, whether that's with an agility ladder or running to the net and back. But those sprints, 5 to 20-second sprints. So those are the anaerobic or explosive training. Number 3, there should be flexibility, which would be upper body and lower body flexibility. And number 4 would be strength training, upper and lower body strength training, as well as core strength training. So the upper and lower body should be 3 times per week, and the core strengthening could be daily.
Do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
Right. It's important to optimize one's strength and conditioning by designing for each tennis player what they're weak in. Is it aerobic conditioning or strength or flexibility or explosiveness? So optimize the strength and conditioning. It's also equally as important to have a hydration as well as a nutrition strategy. And this probably should be reviewed quarterly with a sports medicine physician to analyze the nutrition, the hydration, and the flexibility and the conditioning.
Great. Thank you so much again, Dr. Small, for joining us live from the US Open.
Thank you for having me.